All right.
Cool.
Let's see if we are live. It's like, as always, I'm looking for the signs are here. We are live and someone even is watching. Hi.
That's
Hi,
so crazy.
friends.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Who's all here? All right. So, hi, Katie.
Hello. Thanks for
We
having me on.
thank you for coming on. It's a Friday. I know not a lot of people are into Fridays, but unfortunately or fortunately, that's what we have. Sometimes you just need a good Friday hangout with your friends. So, that's what we do here.
That's true. If there's not that many people, I don't have to be nervous. And if there are a lot of people, then I get to be famous. So it's a win-win for me.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're just gonna hang out, see what happens, what comes out of it. It's just a good hangout for you and I and catch up because we haven't seen each other in a while.
I know, it's been like a year. I haven't really been back to San Francisco in a while, and that's always when I go to Berkeley. I lived in Berkeley for a year, miss it a ton, miss the art community. I'm currently based in LA, where I'm from, and also has a great art community. So I am a sucker for the colors of California and all the people here. So is this a video where you're just going to educate me for an hour?
No, I'm saying hi to Corolla, my friend Corolla. We've done some lives together. She's just a very awesome artist. So, hi, Corolla. And now I can introduce you
Hello.
because you're also my friend. All right. So, this is
Everyone is
Katie.
lucky to have you as a friend.
This is Katie, and we've known each other for a little while, I
Few
think.
years
Right?
now, I think. Probably
Yeah.
3 years, maybe?
Probably around the same. I think around the same time as Alexandra and I have found each other. I think it's like around the same time you and I started talking, like mid pandemic, maybe like
Yeah, I
something
found
like that.
your channel, website, Instagram when I was in grad school for design, and I was like, "Wow, what an incredible person."
Oh, I'm
And I was
flattered.
yeah, and I was like, "Ooh, a friend to gossip with." So this feels very
All right, so let's do a very quick, crazy run through your bio.
oh god,
So,
Lord.
your what was it? Your grandfather was a shoe designer, right?
Yes. Yeah,
That
so
was a
my
fun bit.
Yeah, so I guess my background, my grandpa immigrated to the United States. He was a shoe designer. He wanted to be a lawyer, but his English skills weren't good enough. And so my mom, who wanted to be an artist, he was like, "You should be a lawyer because I can't be a lawyer." And then I was the third generation of lawyer or artist. And I was like, I guess I'll try to go to law school. And then I was like, I don't want to do that. So I became an artist. Some of the other things that I've done, I originally, when I was a kid, wanted to be a physicist, which is cool because of your physics connection. Um, and I decided I just didn't like coding and I didn't like being in a lab and I wanted to communicate ideas. So I decided to go to design school. I studied philosophy before that. So I sort of am interested in a lot of different things. And my current work is this project called Same Wavelength, and it's a YouTube series slash I don't know. Oh yeah, exactly. Um,
Hey, thank
um,
you.
I I basically am currently doing a lot of graphic design around science and using art to communicate science and popularize it. So I'm making things like this, which is like a sketchbook journal. That's my logo. I don't know if that'll be backwards, but basically, this is like the first wave of products I've made is about poison dart frogs, and I've made hats and posters and all sorts of things. So, but yeah, I'm a graphic designer and illustrator by profession and color lover by birth, I guess. So I don't know if that's like super helpful. I'm not a part of the pen community yet, but I do. This is a rapidograph which I got because I love Mobius and his work, and this is what he used. And then I have the mini Kaweco because it's cute.
Yeah,
So I
so
do
we're
have
getting we're getting close, man, with Quebecos.
exactly. So I'm like I have my toe in it. And I love ink, I love pigment, I love dye, I love watercolors, and that's definitely my wheelhouse. So happy to learn more. But I don't know nothing, but I don't know very much. So
Mm-hmm. No, I think like the one thing that you left out that I think is really cool and connects to your art journey is also like that science connection that you have, that
oh
you
yeah.
you actually have a degree of in philosophy that is science, right? Kind of philosophy of
Yeah.
science.
My undergraduate degree, there's so much random stuff that I've done that I never know what's applicable. But yeah, my undergrad is in philosophy of science. And basically, when I dropped my physics major, I decided that I wanted to do more research and writing about scientific concepts and then explain that to the general public that didn't know about these things. So I took like philosophy of neuroscience, and you would talk to neuroscientists one week and philosophers next week. Yeah, let's go. Um, but yeah, basically I did that, and then for my master's degree, I wanted to study that further and like eventually do a PhD. But my university basically was like, you took all the philosophy of science classes, so you've sort of tested out of doing that for your master's, so you have to choose something else. So I studied philosophy of language because in my mind I was like, language and thought and mind are all similar, connected fields. And then I got my MFA in graphic design. So I have a lot of weird sort of interests, but yeah, like I love learning about pigment science. Color is the one thing that unites the four fields I studied in college, which were my philosophy major and then minors in physics, neuroscience, and art, which
Mm-hmm.
all obviously connect to optics and perception and all these other things. So I'm kind of a weird jack of all trades, and always trying to learn more, always trying to be um, just embracing new things that make me uncomfortable, like doing live YouTube videos.
Yay! Yeah, welcome,
So
welcome, welcome.
yeah, but yeah, I'd like. Okay, so you said we were getting close with the Kaweco. Does that mean that
We
a
are.
Kaweco is not a fountain pen? Like, what makes a fountain pen a fountain pen?
Well, open it up. Show us what you got in there.
So this is the little guy
There you go.
with the cartridges, right?
It
So
is a
is
fountain
so is
pen.
the got it. It is a fountain pen. Okay, so is a fountain pen defined by the nib?
Well, the fountain pen is, well, there are several like filling mechanisms. So the
Yeah.
fountain pen is like your nib. Your nib is, oh, the question is this a Lilliput? I think it is a Lilliput.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, because that's the name of the dwarves in the Lilliputians are in that movie book, um Gilligan's Island, I want to say. And this is like the mini my boyfriend upstairs just went, "Uh-huh." Um he's a literature person. So and meant huh? I think it's Gilligan's Island. It's Gilligan's Island. Yeah, so these are like the mini pens. So yeah, they come I bought it because it's green and really cute, and I like really tiny watercolor palettes and having stuff like this. So
Amazing.
um so a fountain pen is defined by its tip.
So the nib is, yes. So, and that's also what it makes it unique. And I think as an art person, you must try more different ones because as people in the chat will say, it's like the fun part about it is you can get so many different line variations.
Yeah.
And sometimes just a different angle from a nib. Just like, it's like the fun part is if you compare it to like let me see, I think I have some here. So I have some Kavecos too.
Oh my god,
And
I've seen those. I think they have like a neon orange one too that I've wanted.
Oh my god, they have so many different. Yeah, so this is your Kavecos for $20, I think.
What?
Yeah,
$20
cheaper on sale.
I should get one of those.
Yeah, I'll send you some stores, man. So basically this, and if I find, I have a rollerball somewhere from the series as well. I thought I had the rollerball. But basically, if you look at the tip of the rollerball and compare it to this, rollerball can only go that way. Like it's what is a part of rollerball is like this tiny little ceramic bowl, a
Yes.
porcelain bowl right at the end.
Yes.
So there is no line variation. I mean, there
Right.
is, like, if you want to draw with it, it's neat, it's
Yeah.
fine, and people do. But like with this, you can grind it in like different ways. Like obviously professional would do it.
Yeah.
And so you can get like 3, 4 different variations out of this one thing.
Got it. I should clarify. I totally forgot to say something. So I went to Immaculate Heart High School, which is the place where Karita Kent taught, and she's this famous nun artist. She taught at the college that no longer exists, that was connected. So as part of our education in the middle school, they taught us calligraphy. So I actually
Ooh.
do have like 10 years of calligraphy experience, and that's I always just used either the markers or like specific calligraphy pens. With obviously I don't know how similar that is to the fountain pen community. I'm gonna sound like very dumb, but basically I was super interested in that when I was a kid, and then when I went to CalArts for my MFA, I got very, 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 very into type design, and a lot of that obviously has to do with sketching on pen and paper first, and then bringing things into the computer, and then looking at like, well, you know, this letter form isn't actually very natural, and you know, the way to actually make the letter form. Got it. Okay. Cool. Thank you. Yes. Good.
Yay, thanks, Corolla.
I'm gonna screenshot that so that I remember it. Google is also my friend, but not here. What's more interesting, the ink or the nib? Okay, I have thoughts on that. But yeah, basically, I guess I've also been interested in pens for like how they shape letters specifically, and I don't know. I guess everyone comes to the pen community for different reasons and different things that they're interested in, whether it's color, whether it's like just being more in tune with more retro forms of writing. But yeah, for me, I'm much more interested in ink because I love color and pigments, and we just did an interview on that. And the nib is only interesting for me when I'm like actually trying to make a letter form, or like I love like a really thick chisel tip for, you know, making beautiful Gothic fonts when I'm designing my own fonts, so things like that. But I don't ever think about the pen I'm using when I'm just like writing a note, other than the color. And I guess that's a bad thing, and maybe why I've come to you. You can be my savior. But I guess, yeah, like, are fountain pen people more interested in writing or sketching? Like, what draws the average person in?
I think it really is individual. So Corolla and I connected because we do both.
Yeah.
You know, but a lot of people are also like William keeps a lot of like journaling, and there's a lot of people who, you know, both things, sketching and journaling, is just such a great thing for your mental health.
Yeah.
You know, there are people, it's not me, but I know people who've been like keeping journals for like 20 years, and some of them like done entries every day.
Wow.
And just seeing their progress, right? You can see like if you struggle with something, you just kind of like therapeutically kind of see your progress. Like you
Yeah.
talk about it to yourself and you analyze yourself through your journals a lot of times.
Yeah. I guess that's why bullet journaling got so like big
Yeah.
during the pandemic, was like an actual way to see, instead of using a spreadsheet, like, oh, here's a cute little beautiful way for me to track my mental health.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Yeah. Actually, the versatility is why I do not recommend these for pen and ink, because I don't think the paper quality is good. But I specifically wanted to make sketchbooks that had blank paper, because I hate drawing on a lined piece of paper. And I was like, I want people to be able to write or draw in the sketchbooks as much as possible. So I love the idea of being able to have this sort of multidisciplinary journal that you're keeping like on the same page. Thank you for coming.
No, I will have to get one of your notebooks. We'll see. We got to
you should test it. You should like just rip it to shreds. Like you should just like every ink you have, put it to the test. Because I basically like I got these in the mail, just my first samples, because I launched my brand like literally a month ago. Like the website isn't even like fully activated. And my first test was oil pastels, because the 3 kinds of work that I like to do are like fine line illustrations with a rapidograph, or like my favorite kind of marker is the Pilot is it Pilot Bravo? They're like really thick marker pens, and they just have such a clean, perfect line with no variation. And I prefer that for my illustrations. And then, yeah, also just testing watercolor, just seeing what would work on this. But
Yeah, I
Marina,
feel like Pilot is just great. It's like one of those companies just makes a lot of great stuff.
yeah, let me try to find the one that I use. And basically, I discovered I've tried like every ballpoint pen marker in the world, like not actually because I don't have that kind of money, but I tried everything because I really was, my hand is shaky, and I was trying to find something that would work well for me. Okay, I literally
Were you
but
doing that? I'm gonna pull up some stuff.
yeah, you do your thing. You you educate while I scramble.
I'm gonna find some stuff, some advices that people gave you.
Yeah, no, that was super nice. I was so thrilled that people had both just like accessible and affordable
Got them right here with
Oh my god. So cute. I cannot find my pen. Basically, the Pilot Bravo, I feel like it's sold out everywhere, which is really upsetting because I like bought a huge box of them because I was worried that I would never be able to find them again. But all of my illustrations for my posters and channel and everything are either done with the Rapidograph or with one of those. So everything starts by hand, and then I bring it into Illustrator to design the posters. And all the posters are science themed. They're all, you know, I'm basically trying to find a use for my illustration skills and design degree that helps educate people about science through beautiful art, or what I hope is beautiful art. That's presumptuous. But that has nothing to do with pen people, but it is sort of, I don't know, it's interesting to think that for me, it was a really important thing. Thank you. For my company, that everything start by hand, because I hate AI with a burning passion. Unless the AI is used to like screen for cancer, like generative art AI makes me rip my hair out.
Yeah, there are definitely use cases, but like, you know, the way it's being pushed right now, and it's also like you can tell, you know, it's not.
Yeah. And even if you couldn't, like, as like with the Ghibli stuff, like it's so depressing to me that the arts are already like such a marginalized community. Like that those were the first people who they went after when they were inventing AI. It's very disgusting to me. And, you know, I don't need to get political, but part of the reason that you and I both came to art is because it's not only about mental health, it's about like literally your existence as a human. Like so much of that has to do with like going into nature and like doing things physically and touching things with your hands and like being a little monkey child and like playing. And we're so generally far removed from those things when we're at a laptop all day, or, you know, just interacting with screens. And it's good to get, like, even I, a graphic designer who spends all my time in front of a screen, it's nice to have a part of your day that's reserved just for using your hands, just for writing, just for using physical color to make something, even if it's ugly. Because like a lot of my stuff starts really ugly. So
no, and I think that's like the whole thing is, and it comes, you're someone who has an actual art degree, and if it comes from you, and I feel like that's the thing that a lot of people feel so self-conscious. And when it comes, you know, my specific interest is, and I guess that's what I advocate for, is like using your fountain pens for drawing, not only writing. I think that's like a part of journaling, you know, all of these things. But I think a lot of people are slightly, you know, afraid just because they set some sort of standards for themselves, right, in their own head, or think what others might think because it's not perfect.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of overcome that?
Oh man, that's like one of my favorite topics. So there's so much to talk about with this. One of my favorite books is called This Is Your Brain on Music, and it's by Daniel Levitin, I want to say, David Levitin. That's so bad that I don't remember. Anyways, but it's this scientist and music guy who's like a neuroscientist, and basically one of the things he learned was there's a lot of cultures where like dancing and singing are just like part of life, and they're not viewed as these sort of like things you have to be perfect at, because in Western culture, you know, if you're a piano player and you screw up. Like, you know, it's a performance. It's not like part of your daily life. It's like this very artificial, like high bar thing that we've created, which is dumb because like humans and other animals are musical, we're creative, we're energetic, and things like dancing are just part of moving. And you know, that's kind of how I feel about art, where like, first of all, I have been drawing since I was like a fetus, not actually, but like I've been an artist my whole life. And it took going to art school, getting into a really difficult to get into art program for me to even convince myself that I could call myself an artist without being presumptuous, which is stupid because art is like the most human of activities. It's quite literally like what it means to be alive. And you know, all fields are creative. Scientists are creative. Lawyers are creative. But yeah, getting past this cultural block of like calling yourself an artist, I think like anything, it's just practice. It's just telling yourself like, you know, life is too short to be self-conscious about something that's so arbitrarily stupid. And easier said than done.
Life is too short. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's the same thing as playing a song on the piano. It's like we're so afraid if we make an error or make something ugly, then people will not think of us as artists, because in our minds, to be an artist is to be a good artist, and to be anything less than that is criticizable. And that's dumb, because I think you get more out of drawing or spending 10 minutes a day just making something, even like you said on our last video, like swatching colors. That's just part of interacting with the world. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot of mental, like, every day I'm just
I think that's kind of going back to that, you know, childhood. Like one of the reasons why kids are so more prone to like learning languages better is because they don't really, up until a certain age, they don't tend to think or see themselves and like get very kind of, oh, but how do I come out as, you know, like what does someone else think of me?
Yeah, there's no shame around making mistakes when you're like 3, like unless you get punished. Thank you, I appreciate it. I have pasta. I'm going to eat. I apologize. Yeah, exactly. That's like exactly the right point. If you practice art, you're an artist. And like for my YouTube channel, I'm interviewing scientists, and a lot of them are also musicians and artists and whatnot. And they'll say, "Oh, I'm a scientist because that's my job, but I wouldn't call myself an artist because I don't make money from it." And it's like, well, what idiot decided that you had to make money from something to call you? Like, I'm a poet. There's no universe in which I'm going to make money from poetry, and I don't want to. And I think it's just getting over some of these hurdles. And it just takes a friend. Like it takes one friend who's like more confident than you are about a thing to get you to be like, you know what, I think that's true. Like I think I do want to be an artist, or my art is good, or I do want to be in this community. And that's really helpful. I like having friends who are more stubborn than I am, and that always helps me, honestly.
Yay, that's a good answer. All right, I gotta prepare all my stash of things and all the advices you got from people.
Yeah. So yeah, the only pens I have other than calligraphy markers and the Rapidograph and the Coeco that I showed, that's it. So I think I've had friends give me pens in the past, like in college, that I don't have at my current home. So starting from absolute zero, I'm a blank slate for you to indoctrinate.
Well, not really, because you already have one pen.
But I use it just like for fun, and I don't use it that much. And for me, the Rapidograph I got because I specifically wanted to do technical drawings, and I wanted to do scientific fine line drawings that were like as close to not robotic, but like digital as possible, with still having a human feel, but like being very clean. And I think in my personal work, I'm not like that. I use oil pastels. I like oil paints. I like messiness. So it just depends. And I guess, yeah, like what for you when you're choosing a nib, because I know the difference is like there's extra fine and there's like medium. Like what are you looking for, or like maybe what are the different categories and how do they affect your style of drawing?
I think it's very different because you touched up on calligraphy before, and like the nib that you kind of, as an example, were talking about. That's called a stub nib in the community, or I guess in the world of our nib interests.
Yeah,
So that one is a fun one. I don't think I can draw with it much, except if it's like the Greek key type of thing,
totally.
it's great. It's neat for that. So that is like very nice, beautiful writing mostly for me.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. Carola says the Few Day. Few Day is fun, and you can find Sailor for like $26, I think, or maybe less.
I think that's actually the pen that someone gave me in the past, and I used it briefly, and then for
people
whatever
either
reason,
like it or don't like it.
I think I liked it. I think the thing is, like, I just have not gotten into writing. Like, I hate writing unless it's on a computer. And I think part of that is that I have really ugly handwriting, and I have friends with beautiful handwriting, and it was always a jealousy thing where like, do I want to take the time to actually learn how to write better? I don't know. But maybe this talk will help me overcome that. Like, because I do think.
So wait, are you still a generation that learned cursive in school?
I'm like the last, like maybe not the last, but like I did learn cursive.
Because I think you and I are in California, and I know California just stopped cursive and now just restarted it again. Like it was like time we had no cursive in school, but now it's back.
Yeah, there was like a hybrid, like my type design professor told us about this, that basically they introduced a hybrid version of cursive and printing. And I think I have a couple thoughts about that. I hope I'm not ranting too much. Although you invited me, so you knew what you were getting into.
Sure.
Says they don't like, okay, stub nib first. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm already there, so I will just work my butt off to make it better. The real problem is one of my parents' friends, who's an older gentleman who's French, has perfect handwriting, and anytime I got a thank you card or a birthday card or something from him, it killed me because I was like, oh, this is what people should write. Like, I need to learn how to do this, and I just never did. I can't remember what I was gonna say, but it was I think the reason the cultural issue is like the reason printing and cursive are taught to children is because it's a practical thing. Like, there's no artistry being taught to 6-year-olds when it comes to writing. It's a matter of, we have different writing systems for clarity, for speed, for legibility. And okay, I will burn those numbers into my memory. Yeah, like I sort of don't have issues. Like, I do think everyone should be taught cursive. But I also think it's an issue of like, if they're never going to encounter cursive in the world, like I wish everyone learned Latin. Like, I really wanted to learn Latin when I was a kid, and it wasn't taught at my school, and that makes me sad. But it's, how much as long as it's a practical
I think it depends on like how much they want to interact or get to interact with the world, because honestly, like coming from Europe, I was shocked to find out that people don't do cursive here. It's very unusual, highly unusual. Like,
well, before cursive in Germany, they had a different thing that was like cursive but wasn't cursive.
Gothic. My grandfather did Gothic, so it's funny because my grandfather was born in 1905. And so my dad was like a surprise baby that they had like super late in life with my grandmother. And so when my uncle, who was like 25 years older than my dad,
oh my God,
was confronted with like, my grandfather was like, could you like maybe teach your brother how to read, because like I only know the Gothic. Because that was a problem back then, because like grandfather was learning the Gothic, which is like, if you have something written in Gothic script in front of you, it's kind of hard to read. And I feel like because we didn't learn it, it takes a
Right.
practice together. And I feel this is how probably, some people, younger generation, in between generation, who didn't get the cursive might feel about,
Yeah.
reading cursive if it's like properly written in it.
Right. So
So
that's actually exactly why I brought it up, because part of me is like, yeah, I wish we learned Gothic too. Like, I wish we knew all of this so that I could read 200-year-old documents. But I don't know, like the people who are upset that kids are no longer being taught cursive often don't even know about that writing system and how we don't know it, because that's kind of the natural evolution of writing, is that it does change over time in the same way that language changes over time.
mhm,
And the way we talk isn't how they talked 100 years ago. So
right.
I see both sides of the issue as someone who also has been an educator and knows there's so little time to teach people different things. Like, I am biased and I think kids should learn cursive, but I also understand, you know, they decide to stop teaching things in certain generations. And I don't, of all the things that I think kids should be learning right now, I don't know that cursive is the most important. There's a lot of things that I think are really important, but
Yeah. I mean, a lot of
I see
things
both.
are, but I think the most important thing for me, I do prefer, I'm used to cursive, but I think just like staying with using your hand to write
Yeah.
is extremely, because there is a scientific proof that it does help you remember stuff better, and like, things like that. Because like when I took my history classes for my degree, um basically all of my professors were like, please write down, like it was extremely important that you're present, that you remember. And it's just like, that's something that I think is important. I hope it's going to stay.
Yeah. I I mean, the written word is thousands of years old.
Yeah.
And like, I think one of this is an argument I don't need to go into right now, but I'm a letterpress printer, and I sort of discovered something a while ago, which is that often a technology is replaced by a new technology in its prime. And
Mhm.
so what that means is, like, when letterpress sort of went out of fashion, it was like the main way at the time that newspapers were printed. And so when digital printing came about, it replaced this industry that was huge, and there was nothing wrong with it. There was nothing wrong with letterpress. It's just that it became less efficient than the new thing. And
Mhm.
the issue that that created is that, there are kinds of experimentation and magic with letterpress that you can do now that basically was like cut off at the shins for no reason other than something else came along. So often, the cool things that we're doing, like writing, like, it's not that there's anything wrong with writing. It's that, kids aren't going to be taught certain things because it's more efficient to use some sort of
Mhm.
new digital technology.
And we're back at cursive versus,
Right. So,
printing.
yeah, like, cursive is beautiful, and if you have good handwriting, it's more beautiful than printing, and like in general. And I also think calligraphy is really important. I wish everyone learned calligraphy, and I wish everyone learned knitting and all these other things. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I guess it's a question of, like, in the same way that I'm also a film photographer, and I know that there are things that I like. I still like to process my own film. I don't have a lab anymore like I did in college, but that using your hands is really important, and there are still really beautiful things that you can do with film that, like, I don't really think you can do with digital, and it
Mhm.
loses its magic. I guess this is the AI argument all over again, but yeah, I don't know how to advocate for people learning old skills other than just to say it's cool and to have friends like you who like make ceramics and paint and like keep those things accessible, keep the kilns open, keep, you know, the mills going. So
Mhm. I
yeah.
mean, we can't nor should we stop the progress. Like that's,
No.
it's just the fact of life. But the thing is that I think it's important to keep the practice of handwriting, sketching, just like visualizing things. And I mean, this is where, we're back at the fountain pens.
So I do have an old person bias. I really don't like that designers don't know how to draw, because
Ah.
it used to be, I'm eating, I'm sorry. It used to be that to get into design school, you actually had to hand draw and to have a good
Hmm.
portfolio. And now it's just, oh, do you have good computer skills? That's fine. And I have a lot of
Hmm.
really close friends who are terrible at drawing, but are great designers. And I 100% think they should have to know how to draw. I think they should be bullied
Mhm.
into it. I think there's something, and maybe this is why you can bully me into handwriting and actually using pens, because it's important. Even if it's important in an old, stuffy kind of way, like it it does feel like there's something magical about writing,
Mhm.
just in general. So, okay, so I've gotten advice on a stub pen. So, what is a stub nib, and how is it different from other nibs?
All right. So it's, well, William will tell you what it is, but there are several different. I feel like it's also use case, you know. So stub nibs is something, I think it kind of guides your hand better. Like I
Yeah.
think your right, like handwriting, my handwriting is better when I use the stub. But also the ink dispersion is
Mm,
like at the core of the nibs.
got it. That makes
So
sense.
yeah, and like I can only speak for me. Why I like fountain pens, one of the reasons is I enjoy that ink flow, like the ink coming out of the fountain pen.
Mhm.
Very different than, ink and your rollerball or something. But it's
Right.
also the formulas are different. So many things are different about it. But there is something beautiful about like how it just lays on the paper from the fountain pen and what shades you can get. There's like
Mm,
very similar thing to watercolors in a
watercolor.
way. Yeah. So, although very different at the same time, because inks are mostly dye based,
Right.
right? But again, you don't, if unless you're displaying, your journal on the wall,
Yeah.
you don't really
No.
need to
Yeah.
care about that.
How do you, so I guess for the depth of color, is it a pressure thing where like if you lightly press and you have a thinner line, it's like the lighter part of the ink, and then if you press harder, it's darker?
No, not always. It really depends on the nib. There's so many, and that's like the beauty of like, that's where we are in this community. And like someone can tell me if I'm wrong, but like one of the reasons why we are all here is, and you'll see like different spectrum of things. There's gonna be
Yeah.
people who are really into vintage, like super
Yeah.
old, like fountain pens. I don't know if you like ever found any fountain pens from your grandparents or like great grandparents or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like there are gonna be people who use that stuff and advocate for it because it was made differently.
Right.
And people compare it to like using that type of, a lot of those vintage ones is like painting with a paintbrush because they're softer.
Got it.
Not all of them, but there are like cases when it's like, for example, my mom used to use an old fountain pen when she was in school, and so I gifted her one of my modern ones that she liked. So I gifted it to her, and she started like writing, and she hasn't used a modern pen, and she's like, "Why isn't it flexing?"
Yeah. Totally.
Which is so funny because this is, yeah, there
What
you go.
needles? Oh my god.
And this is kind of like there's going to be people who are into that, and so now we're at the point in the community or in the business or fountain pen maker things, there are makers who are trying to like recreate that
Mhm.
vintage feel.
That makes sense.
Yeah, which is a lot of fun, and it's like a deeper conversation for other time why this worked that way then and now it's different. I do think modern pens are just like last longer. I think they're a little
Mm,
bit less fussy.
got it.
Depends
That's
on the, on pens. Like if you're gonna buy like $1,000 pens, it's like a different story. I don't know if a lot of people use their pens like if you collect them that way. I think it's an object. A lot of people do.
don't are you talking about collections? My little collections of watercolors? Um, so this actually is bringing up a memory that I'd forgotten. So when I was a kid, one of the reasons I like writing with fountain pens is it eases my writing grip. Absolutely. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I feel that way when I'm drawing too. If I have like a marker or something that like lets out ink loose, it's so much easier than when I'm drawing with a pencil or anything. And I'm afraid of carpal tunnel. That is
Yeah.
like my deep fear in life. What I was gonna say is when I was a kid and they told us like go get calligraphy pens and they said get the markers, right? Get the big fat chisel tip marker that's like a highlighter that's like square. And I was like an adventurous kid and I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna get that, but I also want like an actual pen, like a dip pen. And I couldn't figure out how to like press it hard enough and consistent enough to make the chisel tip like style of drawing for the letters that I wanted, like for the life of me. And I don't know whether it was because I was a kid and I like didn't have, I mean, I had fine motor skills. I wasn't 3, I was like 12. But I couldn't get that line thickness to be different between like, you know, the thin like upstroke at the 45-degree angles and then like the thick downstroke. Like nothing I was doing was working. And I don't know whether it was like the pens I was using weren't flexible enough. Maybe I would have had a better time with older pens. Or maybe it's a practice thing. Maybe it's like learning how to draw in the first place. Like you need to learn those fine motor skills. So maybe I have to go back to.
I mean, it's a lot of times. It's unfortunately, yeah. We'll cover this, but I would suggest buying a pen that you consider to be more expensive but secondhand. A lot. I feel like a lot of times, like if we talk about that, it's probably also the quality, possibly. I mean, it's not always that something more expensive will give you the best results, but it might give you better results. Like, you know. Anyhow, so you ready?
Yep. Show me what you got.
All right. Hopefully some of the people who gave it their advice are here.
I'm so sorry to everyone that I'm eating, especially you.
Well, you got to do what you got to do.
I know.
Okay. So my first response to a plea for a newbie pen advice, fountain pen advice, was from Rich, a friend of mine who makes his own pens. So we're going to talk about handmade as well. And so obviously he wants you to get one of his, to which I responded, sure, but we have to get it secondhand. He's wonderful, but I feel like, and I'll show you, there is an artistry that comes with each and every pen and creator, like much similarly to like, you know, watercolor community or any other, you know, community. Right. And there are so many different degrees of making, but it's very few people who make fountain pens would or can or are able to make nibs.
Yeah.
I mean, all the same stuff, basically, you know. So like you have to just like appreciate that pen. Yeah. She knows what I'm talking about. So
okay. Correct me if I'm wrong. In my mind, there's 3 parts of a pen, right? There's the nib, there's the ink applicator, cartridge.
Reserve, like it's,
and then there's the body, right?
So yeah, I'll show you. The body can be like, you know, the unscrewing part. Yeah. Okay, so this is how pen looks when it's not made. It's like a blank.
Whoa! Oh my god, that's so cool. Why do you have that?
Well, I have this maker that I like in the UK. She also casts her own. Like some makers cast their own bodies.
Okay, so this was my question. So there's 3 parts. Like how many people are making all 3 elements? Like is that common? Or is it?
I'll show you. Yeah, there are people who are freaking incredible and are making almost everything except for like maybe 2 parts.
That's insane.
So this is Meg. Meg makes this. She called this dinosaur hide, which I love. And so this is the result. Like this, she made this, then she made. It's the same blank basically. Then she made her pen. Like hand turned everything, and it's cute. Yeah, it's super cute. And so, all right. So what she did not make, so it comes with a converter. I just popped a different thing in here. So the ink converter is obviously what she would not make.
Sure.
And then the nib itself.
Got it. Okay.
The nib unit.
So I guess those are now, I'm thinking of like brush making. Like those are mass produced things that like require a level of precision that most people can't do at home.
You mean the
The
nibs
nibs,
or
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So the nibs they usually get from I would imagine like a nib meister or whoever sells them. They might be getting them directly, some people directly from the factories. They're not so many out there. They're like two main types,
Mhm.
Bach and Yovo.
Mhm.
Both are made in Germany. And that's like the most stuff that everyone buys.
Right.
If you're a maker of a pen, that's, it's
What
standard.
about, does Japan, like I feel like
Mm.
Japan is what I think of. Are they getting their nibs from Germany or are
We
they
are
making
getting
stuff?
there. We're getting there, man.
I'm like a really
Wait,
annoying kid at the
I
back of
have
the
one
class. Like,
more. I have these
whoa.
amazing makers that I've been friends with. There is this person, their name. Their name is Abigail Markov. So she makes
Mhm.
everything. The blank is is by them. And this part too.
Oh wow.
This part.
That's crazy.
Which is so cool. It's like metal smithing type of thing, right? And yeah, again, everything except for the converter, which is
Got it.
actually finally here.
Cool.
And, but like in both cases though, they make sure everything is tuned, like make sure your nib is fine. They're not gonna send you a pen that is a dud, which I very much
Right.
appreciate. You know, even if it's like the same nib, both pens have basically the same nib. It's still very just comforting. You know, it's like
Yeah.
you get that piece of art. There's not going to be another pen that is like that, even if it's like the same quote unquote blank, just because they cast it like the dispersion of elements in it.
Yeah.
If she the blank that I showed you, if she gonna make another pen out of this blank, it will not look quite the same as
Right.
the one I have, right? So that is the cool part about handmade pens.
Okay. So okay. So pens where you can exchange nibs. So like dip pens, for
Mm-hmm.
example. Like I guess what I'm sort of thinking of is like I'm a film photographer. I have certain cameras that you exchange the lens. You can use any lens made by that company that's made for that body. And that's like a really sort of useful universal thing where you can like go out and shoot and know that you can shoot any sort of environment versus a fixed lens camera where it has like it's literally you can't take that lens off. It's like part of that is the tool. The tool is just that one kind of tool and you know how to use it.
Mm-hmm.
And so fountain pens don't have exchangeable nibs.
No, they do.
Oh.
Not all. Yeah,
Okay.
but quite a few do. Well, I don't have it on hand, but Esterbrook, they've been around for a very long time. And they just got purchased again. And they also use just the same nibs as I just showed you. And you can, like, that's the fun in these nibs that are Bach and Yovo and like are so wildly available. You can just screw and like change them around for most cases. Not every pen, but most pens.
Got it. So are there like kits that people sell or is it just you buy the nib that like you're interested in?
You can buy. So that same Esterbrook is they employ like different nibmeisters. That's what they call them. So you basically are trained in jewelry.
Yeah.
Right.
Got it.
And
yep.
But it's like your specific kind of like way you go.
Yeah.
Is the nibs.
Got it. Okay.
So yeah, they find like people who do this and they kind of like make these specialty grinds, and you can buy their pens on their websites, but also they have these nibs. There are specialty nibs as available, whatever, you know. So yeah, you can totally buy that separately. A Kaweco, like even Kaweco, you can like buy separate nibs.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. No, you totally can.
So I guess it's really like it's truly just like what a person wants and
that's the beauty. Yeah, that's the beauty of fountain pen. Like you really kind of make that pen your own.
Okay. That makes sense.
In a lot of cases.
And is it just trial and error of like you try a bunch of you spend a lot of money trying a bunch of things?
Pretty much, and then you go more expensive.
Oh no. But I guess that makes sense. So I guess so it's
But you don't have to. There are plenty of people who don't. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And like the recommendations people gave you, like there's some really good,
Totally.
affordable stuff. And like, so the next one is from my friend Alexandra, who we do a podcast with. So she said Kakuno, and Kakuno is the pilot, one of the pilot pens.
I saw that. Yeah.
I don't have it, so I can't show you, but I've used it. And there's another suggestion. I know of a pen club in your area.
Yeah.
So you should go, and you should, like, people are happy to talk pens.
Okay.
Test out pens. Like, they're gonna give you pens. You can ask all the questions. And I think that's like, and so this is how I like tested Kakuno, because I never really gotten one. And I was like, holy crap, this is so good. And the person who had hers, she was also someone who sketched. She was an urban sketcher too. And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, reverse. So it's a cheap pen, but like it gives you different line variations on the reverse as well, which is quite rare for, especially at that price point.
Yeah, you said
like you can use it straight up.
Sketching. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is reverse sketching?
Not reverse sketching, but it's like, okay, so this is like a regular way of using, right, your pen.
Yeah.
But then you can do this.
What?
And it would still work.
That's illegal.
And you would get a finer line and would still be working. And so it was awesome. She could really use it in a way that was just beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah. There you go. Pen shows. Come with me to San Francisco. You have yours in February. The one in LA.
Okay. I can save some money. Okay, that makes a ton of sense. So this now definitely seems like a pyramid scheme. It feels like getting into like really fine wine. It's like, oh, you do wine tasting, and then you get into the fun Mont Blancs.
Ooh, we're getting somewhere with Mont Blancs.
Exactly. Yeah, like I know of them.
Go to estate sales. You have them.
We do have them in LA, and
we do too.
I went to London. I come next year. Okay, I will. That was easy. This really feels like I'm being indoctrinated into a cult. But I'm already part of the watercolor cult, so it doesn't feel too scary. Yeah, like I guess. Okay, I have a few questions that are sort of practical. As someone who is a sketcher, like, what is your favorite black ink that dries quickly enough that you can go over top it in watercolor relatively quickly? Because that's actually one of the reasons I got the Rapidograph too, is that
awesome.
It dries immediately.
All right, not the black one, but they also have the black one that I use. My favorite, Detrimentos. I can send you links. So I've tested quite a bunch of them, just like, like which ones dry better and like stuff like that. Mont Blanc is terrible. Do not recommend. Unfortunately, very expensive. I do not recommend.
The only reason I know that company is when I was a kid, my mom and I like would walk past them in the mall, and my mom was like, "Oh yeah, like when we did some business deal, like we got one of those, and like, ooh, fancy, expensive." Yeah. And I was like 5, and I was like, "Oh, it's pretty." Yeah. Also, I'll need you to send me a list of all the recommendations and everything after this, because I do want to get into it and like expand my horizons.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so next up, after the ink, the recommendation from my friend Julia here, she says, do not use alcohol to clean your fountain pens.
Yes, I saw that. When I bought this, I asked the guy, because like everything I read online about Rapidographs was like, it takes an hour to, like, it takes days to clean them, blah blah blah. And so I went into the store and I was like, oh, like, do I need special alcohol? And the guy's like, oh, you just throw it in water overnight. And I was like, what? Like, really? And I feel like there's so much misinformation online about
Mm.
how to do some of these basic things, especially if you're not in a community like this where you're like, oh, I need to spend so much money on these special things. And you're like, no, like just find someone who's been doing it for a while and like knows what to do and what not to do.
Yeah, no, it's like also some resin. There are warnings on some fountain pens. Some that you just got a recommendation for example. Well, you didn't. I think I actually brought them to kind of tell you about them. Twisby. So these come
Yeah.
with a warning. They're like, please don't use hand sanitizer because it contains alcohol because
And
this
it'll
is not going to hold. So,
Yikes.
mm-hmm.
I don't like my
Yeah.
art supplies melting.
No, yeah, that's just. All right. Let's see. What else do we have here? Okay, so another one from a fellow paint maker was.
Cool.
So she's still a newbie herself, although she's been like in it for I think over a year now. I've only had a few pens, but my favorite are from Monteverde. I think they're made in the US. I don't
Cool.
know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they're wildly like they're out there. It's quite a few of them. Yeah, you can get
Cool.
like good ones. Have not tried, do not know, but it comes from someone who sketches. So
I will take that into consideration. Those are good people, those who sketch.
yeah. All right, let me show you. The next one is Jinhao is basically the Chinese pens. Let me see. Ugh. All right, I just had one here. So they are very inexpensive, Amazon, but they are basically dupe for Mont Blanc pens.
Whoa! Oh yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. Of
Mm-hmm.
course. Okay.
Yeah, the only thing it's like missing the star. But they're like giant, like not giant, they're like comfortable big pens.
Yeah.
I actually got them because they were so cheap. I don't remember how much they are, like $10 maybe.
Yeah.
So I got these so I can just use them and not be afraid I'm gonna damage my nice pens, with like pigmented things.
You're so funny. Oh my god. But I'm
So
the same way, honestly.
they're fine. They're fine with like starting out, testing out what you want. Um, I moved on. Got these two.
Oh,
It's
I like the
affordable.
green.
Yeah, I love that too.
That's really pretty.
So I kind of, I thought the colors are fun and they have a lot of different ones. So
Okay.
like, you can try that out. That's Amazon for you.
Yeah.
Let's see. So the next recommendation for you, I think I know which one it is. Okay, Pilot pens again. Again,
They're my favorite. I literally spent an hour looking for my marker this morning and I lost it and now I've lost it again and I'm going insane. It's fine.
Ooh.
It's in the bed. It's actually it was in my butt. I'm not even
What?
kidding. It was right underneath me. Yeah, this is like I don't know if they've stopped making them. They made them in red, blue, and black, and this is like the best thing I've ever used. And I'll show you the tip. It's like really inky.
Mhm.
It's I guess a water-based ink. There's no shimmer in it. It's not like a Sharpie. It's just like perfectly black. And it's amazing. And like I would buy 1,000 of these if I could. But yeah, I don't know what it is about that company, but they just kill it every time.
Oh. Yeah, there's like a whole people love the Leonardo pens these days. It's like
What are
they're
they?
very Italian, very colorful resins.
Sold. Don't
Yeah,
even
there
need
you
to
go.
see them. Oh my god, Leonardo fountain pen.
It's just looking them
So,
up.
is there um I I understand there's like a huge I mean like I know a lot about like Japanese stationery culture, but is there like I just wonder if these $10 pens and things that are cheaper, like, is there a market just for like kids who are taking notes in school and they want to try something like this instead of a
Right.
ballpoint pen? Is that like what a lot of that is kind of marketed towards, or
I,
like
I
what's the
right. I wish I knew for sure if Japan is also using fountain pens. I'll tell you what, Finland.
This is so mean. Why would you tell me about these pens? They're so pretty. And I don't
So
have hundreds of dollars right now.
you're looking them up, yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
People have
Oh,
huge collections of Leonardo's these days.
really nice. Is this the company that did the pomegranate pen a couple years ago? There was
Maybe.
like there was an ad I saw for like I can't remember what it was. It was just like this absolutely stunning resin pen that like had glitter in it and it looked like pomegranate seeds and it was just like
Aw.
unbelievable to me as an outsider to the
Sounds like
community.
they might have that type of company.
Oh, it's so cool. Definitely feels
So,
sort of old school though. Like I
so
don't
there
know.
are countries that kind of require kids to have fountain pens, so you're
Mhm.
not far off.
Got it.
One of my recommendations is actually Lamy.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
just try
Yeah.
it out in the store. For some people, it doesn't work. So look at this one. You might
Yep,
like
I've
this one.
seen that one.
It kind of guides your hand. It's supposed to guide your hand, but it's not universal for everyone, that grip section.
Mhm.
So it might or might not work for you. A lot of people love these for sketching.
Do you have Shorthand, the store in the Bay Area, or is it
We
just
No, we
out?
don't. We have the top drawer.
Okay, yeah, top drawer is unbelievable.
They have Quebecos and some other stuff.
Yeah. There was I can't find the pen that I was thinking of, but yeah, in LA there's a company called Shorthand and it is a stationery store and they have at least a couple and like they have just like everything. Pelican has the twist.
Yeah, it's like it's also like a scholarly it's like similar idea to Lamy Safari. Pretty unbreakable. I think it's made from the same stuff as like Lego bricks. So for kids, you know.
I'm very good at breaking things, so that would be nice to know that I wouldn't break something.
And yeah, it's just like for school kids. But back to the theme, I don't know if it's the same in Japan, but it could be. It's just seeing how many like, you know, pens Pilot has
Yeah.
that are kind of affordable. You know, it might be the same. I'm just not knowledgeable. But before we move on and I forget, I'm sorry to say, but Pilot is upping their prices. In
Yeah.
3 days, it's gonna go 20% and more up in cost. Mm-hmm.
And they're Japanese.
Yeah.
Is this a tariff thing or is it like a just
It's been planned for a while.
inflation?
Been
Yeah.
planned for a while, so it's coming up. So if you need something, get it the next 3 days.
I can't remember, I'll try to find it. Whatever company I went nuts like when I started my company and I bought a bunch of just like literally every this is like slanderous on a fountain pen channel, but like I got like every ballpoint pen known to man because I really wanted to find something that worked with my hand to really make, you know, the line quality that I liked and I wanted to try to see if there was anything other than my go-to that I really liked because I also really need there to be like a thick line for the illustrations that I'm doing, which is why I do them in a big scale and then scale them down because there's a lot of detail. But like the company I went to try to find more of these, like did not have them. Like they were completely out of stock. So I'm wondering if they're just discontinued, which would be sad. Because I don't know, like how heartbreaking. It's like when I find, you know, a paint by some company that's now discontinued or like manganese blue or whatever and it's like, well, how am I supposed to be happy ever again? But I guess that's the benefit of using fountain pens, right? It's
I
like you
think
have
we
one.
all also have stories about that, and guys like write in the chat. But like inks, they're inks.
Yeah.
Like you get attached to an ink, and there is suddenly lack of it.
Yeah.
Rumors it's not coming back.
The other community that I'm a huge nerd about is nail polish. Obviously big into colors, collectible colors. And same thing, like there's companies that go under and there's pigments that no longer get made and like everyone's favorite purple shade of nail polish from Orly just got discontinued like a year ago and internet went insane. Like literally insane.
Yeah. Well, you know that's the story of the very famous one. What is it? The PO49 quinacridone.
Yeah.
So that story is that if you look around, you're in the parking lot, look around what color cars are there.
Yep. Yep.
It's one of those colors that is no longer, car companies are no longer interested in, because we as humans don't really require those anymore. We mostly request like what? White, gray, black, dark
Yep.
blues for
Yep.
most part. At least it has been like there's a stretch of time that that's all you see. And, there's not much color out on the parking lot. And so that's pretty much
Yeah.
similar.
I will agree with this. I'm not saying ballpoints or anything else are better than fountain pens. And I also have not been fully converted yet. So thank you for not killing me. Um yeah, on this journey. But yeah, like same thing happened to ultramarine green. I think that was like mostly a car color and then got
Mhm.
discontinued. Yeah, a huge part of my MFA thesis was talking about how things have just gotten boring and it's really upsetting and everything is gray and like you look at fashion, you look at Skims from Kim Kardashian, you look at this minimalist beige gray color palette, and for things like houses the reason or apartments the reason they're painted white, or the reason cars are only a few colors is because of resale. And that's like literally it. And it's
Mhm.
depressing to think that we wouldn't have color and vibrancy and joy in our lives just because of something like that. Um, no ballpoint whatsoever. Oh my goodness. Damn. All right. I'll leave. Um, no, but
That's
I
a
get it.
radical view, man.
I mean, it's a good one.
It's all in a good, joking
Yes,
manner.
absolutely. Um, but yeah, like it is really concerning that like color is dictated by politics, it's dictated by um finance, it's dictated by the economy, it's dictated by, pigment
It
availability
can
and
be, but
and
I feel like the way I feel like supply chain problems were there. We're still living through that. I think
yeah,
some of the pigments are definitely, they have fallen under that too. Like even in my ceramics world,
yeah,
there's like whole clays we just don't have stuff to make it the same way. It's like there's a lot that goes into clay,
yeah,
chemically speaking,
yeah,
and we just couldn't like you use that same, it's like the same name for the clay, but it does not perform the same way.
yeah. Same thing with
So it's the same, I feel like, with a lot of things. It's also kind of the blue, like cobalt blue. We had a bit of a problem with it too. We couldn't
yeah.
for a while.
Well, lithostones for lithographic printing are no longer we're like at the end of them getting mined because the quarry, whatever, where they are in quarry. Thank you. Thank you, boyfriend in the sky. Um, is it in France or something? I don't know. Like basically, like we can't get those stones anymore, and they're the only ones that are like chemically like graded for that kind of printing. Um,
Mhm.
and basically, as soon as like the ones that people are currently using are fully sanded down, we're not going to have any anymore. And I'm sure
Mhm.
some startup, if they care enough, will make some new 3D printed super stone or whatever bullshit. Sorry, I swore on your channel. I don't know if that's allowed. I'm breaking all the rules today. But yeah, like it is very upsetting to think about these things, but it's also, I mean, it life is very short. We only live a certain
Mhm.
amount of time. It makes you sort of really value both financially and emotionally a lot of these
Mhm.
pigments and things. Like, yeah, I'm gonna buy a few extra bottles of my favorite color of nail polish just in case the company goes under. But when it's gone, like that's also a precious thing. Like I did get to use it, I did get to enjoy it, and it forces us to not collect 100 pens that we're never going to use. It forces you to find what you actually like and embrace it and have that be a part of your day-to-day experience. In my mind, that's why I buy our supplies. It's because I want to be happy. I want to actually do things.
And I
So
think that's one of the recommendation you got. Let me double check. Was get the
just
pen you
use them.
fell for. Get the
Yeah.
pen you fell for. It's not worth getting the cheaper ones, as you will end up still getting it.
Yeah. That's dude, especially with watercolor paint and like palettes, I feel the same way. It's like if there's a color that I really want and then I don't get it, I think about it forever. And it's terrible. I just ordered some paints from France and they haven't gotten here yet, and I'm already like, "Oh, but what if? What if these
Mhm.
other colors?" And I'm like, "That's so toxic. I don't wanna be that kind of person." But, um, yeah, I guess we all need to learn how to appreciate the things we have more, which is, that's against all the advertising and the messaging. Like, you still wanna buy things and support your favorite brands, but then you never use this stuff, so it's finding that balance, which
Yeah,
I'll
I
never.
feel like that's the also the kind of collecting philosophy, right?
Yeah,
Like what perspective you come into something. And there are totally people who have like three pens and they still like are in the community and they're still like, here for it. Some people have like three pens, but those pens are like very expensive. There's going to be
sure.
like a Mont Blanc, like whatever. And they're still enjoying this stuff. And it's just such a just amazing, different kind of way. But I think like the big thing for me with fountain pens is also that it's so reusable,
Yeah, sure.
and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
You just fill it up with the ink, and you go, which is awesome. You don't have to throw it out.
So when I bought this not from a pen person or a pen store. I got this from like an art supply store. Um, and the guy was like, "Oh yeah, like you should definitely buy a fountain pen like this because you'll never need another pen ever again. Like you'll just use it for the rest of your life." And I was like, "If I say this on Marina's show, all the collectors in the chat are going to go insane. How can you only have one pen?" But I don't know. That's how I feel about like really good brushes also. Like if you treat them well, if you actually clean them, if you're
Hmm.
like good about it, like you do get to have this beautiful tool and like feel like you're really connected with your art making in a way that you don't if you're using. I mean, like I like cheap. I can't find it. No, actually I can find it. It's underneath me. Um, my favorite kind of tools to use are childish. Yeah, exactly. One pen for life. That's the reaction I wanted. So this is like, a 50-cent watercolor like brush, and
Mm.
it's got glitter in the handle and it's made for children, and I feel so happy using this just to sketch for fun. I just love it. And it's like probably terrible quality, whatever, but it brings me an immense amount of joy. And sometimes for me that's more important than like, the highest quality brush or whatever. Um but at the same time, like it's nice to know that like, you could have something that you could pass down for generations if the apocalypse isn't
Hmm.
imminent. And that's nice too. So yeah, I guess there's all sides of, I don't
Yeah.
know.
I mean, it's your
Takes all kinds.
personal worth as well, and then as we already talked about the different nibs and how things perform or feel differently depending on like your writing or your sketching. That's a different rabbit hole
Yeah.
altogether. Like there is a beautiful quality pen, like, or the pen that you are certain you can give to your children or sell off, whatever, like Mont
Yeah.
Blancs, you can't sell them. They don't lose that much value.
Yeah.
But there's that perspective, and there are people who collect them as, I don't know, one collects trains, like you buy one to play with and one to just put on a shelf and like
Yeah.
have it sealed at all times. And that's a different collector
Yeah.
altogether, right? But like most of us will like, at least here, I think will like using our stuff. So
Yeah.
even if you have 100, like I think there are people who are like have 100 plus,
Sure.
and they would still like rotate and take turns with their pens, and like every time you feel differently, you're like, I still like this stuff as much as when I first got it, or I don't, and I'm okay, selling it off or like giving it to a friend depending on the value, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's important. And I think actually one of the things that I'm really interested in about your work is your I don't know, the historical perspective. I don't know whether it's because you're one of my few European friends, but I just feel like you have such a wonderful connection with the past and like the way things are made and like the way things used to be made, and like you have such a deep care and knowledge about those things. And every time you sell on your Etsy store like old paints, for example, or old pigments or
Mm.
something, I'm always like, wow, I don't know if I would ever use that, but I think it's so wonderful to be able to own something like that, to own a piece of the past and to have such an understanding of like how things used to be made, how art used to be made, what it used to be made of. And I feel like that's also like a really important part of collecting is preservation of history and that knowledge. Like I don't know, like I would like to think that if I was mummified and some archaeologists like opened my coffin, it was full of just hundreds of pallets of paint and they could tell something about my personality. Like I think I must have interviewed you whatever like a year now, 2 years ago, maybe a year ago. And the thing that you said in that interview that I think about literally all the time is you were talking about how you can tell exactly what kind of painter someone was based on like the colors in their palette and the time it was from. And you were talking specifically about, I think it was whatever, Victorian women who were doing botanical paintings.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, based on my understanding of history and my knowledge that this was popular at the time, if I open a palette and I see that people were using these pinks and greens and like I know like where it was from, I know something about them. And I might have never met this person. They might have lived 200 years ago, halfway around the world, but I have this connection with them and I have, you know, views and feelings about the kinds of things they were painting and why. And I think about that like every time I choose a palette because I'm like, Marina in 200 years will judge me based on the things that I'm painting. But genuinely, like, you know, something as simple as what colors are in a palette can tell you so much about the things that were important to the person is crazy. And I imagine that maybe it's not a direct one-to-one comparison with pens, but you can tell a lot about someone based on the kinds of tools that they use and the things that they cherish and how many they had and whatnot. So I think that's
Yeah,
really fascinating.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And that's also like evident if you're like shop around and there are a few like, you know, we're in a small niche kind of community in the way, but there are quite a few channels like people are like reviewing pens differently or talking about them or showing their collections. And everyone does it slightly differently and some very differently. And that's also like just you can see what pens people kind of use, I guess, and like what is important to them. Because
Yeah.
that's the same thing, you know, with like what I mentioned before, the vintage versus modern. If modern, then like what they're using them for. And I think there are quite a few, also there are trends around like if your house was, you know, God forbid, and I know talking about fire, you know, after LA, but like
Uh,
if you had to, because I had friends who had to evacuate, right?
yeah.
If you had to, like, what would be that? You know, you have like, I don't know, you have 100 pens, but you only have time to pick up 5 or 6. Like, what would they be? You know, like
I
that
have
type of
all your
stuff.
paints in a very special place in my parents' house. I didn't even bring them to my apartment when I moved because I was like, I will break the pallets in the moving.
Uh,
Um, but I literally thought about that during the fires because my parents were in an area that almost had to evacuate, and I was like, I have so many hundreds of dollars of precious things that Marina has made. How am I going to bubble wrap all of them in time? But it's so true. Like, you know, what do you find valuable? And like, I don't know, like I really like this little pen and I don't use it that much, but I like keep it in a box or a bag with like all of the other art supplies that I find really valuable that like if I had to run, like this would be in there and it's tiny, so that helps. But like these are like the 3 pens I have that I'm like, these are emotionally important to me, even if they didn't write better than anything else, even if they weren't that important financially, like those are important connections that I have. That also makes me feel like I'm a real artist. It's like, well, someone who's not an artist isn't going to be like, I'm going to save my pen in the fire, you know? Um, and I, whether that's a sign of cultish mania or like really being in your craft, like it still feels kind of important that like something could mean that much to me, even though it's just a tool.
mm. I
I,
mean,
you know?
yeah, I don't, I really, I mean, that's the thing. It's like someone created that tool.
Yeah, for other people to use. Like it's very caveman. It's very like, you know, human need to create, very primal nature. Like caveman in a good way. I don't know, like whenever in my art or science classes we talk about like cave paintings, like I would start crying, like actually, because I was like, there's this like thread of like
Mm.
human need to create and like use a tool. And it's, you know, no matter how weird all the technology stuff gets, like there's still these very basic um needs and desires and connections that we make. And again, maybe we're going too far afield from art supplies, but I do think all this stuff is connected.
It is, yeah. I think it really
So
is. I highly suggest going to Spain sometimes because you can get your caves there. That's one. But
come
then
get your caves.
there's a national museum that I freaking love because they're also like early. I'm fascinated by early Christian cave paintings. They're like
Christian
chapels.
paintings?
Yeah, they're
What?
like they were like chapels in the caves.
Okay.
So early Christian. It's just very different style from like what you would like go into a church and see nowadays. And it's very raw in a way.
Huh.
And it's
I guess,
very
yeah, like
emotional.
medieval art also is very different. Like,
Yeah.
that's so interesting.
I just
Yeah.
think it's just like such a different thing. There is obviously we have all of those canons, like how like everything is canonized, like in the way like how you're supposed to do things. And it's the same going back to like art, right?
Yeah.
But when you see these early things, when people just wanted to express themselves on the topic, whatever that is, right? Hunting, or, they've just discovered that there is one God,
whatever they wanted to.
Yeah, and it's just so interesting because you also see these elements of like pagan beliefs in there, or like my favorite was this one giant hand sticking out of the ceiling. Like that was so funny. It's so raw and so interesting, and it's just something you wouldn't really see right now, in the church, like something.
Yeah,
like I haven't really seen.
There was no set of images that was, what people were supposed to do. You should tell this to all my professors who didn't like my art in grad school. I was just being freely expressive. I didn't do anything wrong. There are no rules. I specifically chose the most like experimental art school to go to in the whole world, and then I went there, and then it was not experimental, and I was very sad. But that taught me that same lesson, which is that like a lot of, I mean, I knew this before, but like most like rules and patterns and like whatnot for any field that you enter have been established by like 300 years of dead people, and those people aren't always right. And like there's a lot of like good stuff in rules for drawing, for example, like to be concrete, like, yeah, perspective is really important if you want to draw realistically. But, sometimes exploring and doing something that your teachers hate is useful and worthwhile as long as you're not hurting people. And yeah, I do think going back to the question of like, how do you get over this? I guess we weren't really talking about imposter syndrome, but like a sort of similar thing. I think it's really important that like you can fail safely. You can try things. You can be experimental. You can like, it's okay to say, hey, this like $300 pen that everyone likes, I actually don't. And it doesn't fit my hand right. And like, I'm not going to get crucified for saying that. I'm going to say, I want to be a part of a community that values discussion and, being able to talk about different things and being able to have different opinions. And that's really important, especially in art, to be able to say, I want to make this kind of art, and that might be different than what my friend is making, but we both respect each other. And that's like extremely cool. Especially, I don't know anything about the pen community, but I imagine it's pretty open to people with different, different desires and different interests and
different budgets. I mean, like you touched upon something that actually it's a big topic. We call it the Grail pen.
The Grail pen. Oh, like what your holy Grail pen would be.
Yeah. And I have like a short snippet on it. We did an interview with a longtime YouTuber about the Grail pens, and for a lot of people, it is Mont Blanc. It's just
and that's just a price thing. Yeah,
it's a price. It's something you received when you graduate, when you, I don't know, you're done with your law school, any degree or whatever. That's something like people, at least in Europe, that's like very common present. I think it's still on some degree possibly here too.
Yeah. Like that's where I learned about it, was my mom being like, lawyers care about this thing. Oh my God, they're $1,000. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and they've gotten only more expensive. So that's another good point. If you like a pen, you should buy it now because it's going to get more expensive. So inflation.
Mont Blanc limited edition, $35,000.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
a
they
car.
just came out with Renoir. Listen, that's why I buy the inks. Inks are cheaper and it's fun, and you can put it in your Kaveco and enjoy it.
Their Tchaikovsky pen is almost $56,000.
Yep.
I mean, I
I
guess it's
mean,
like a diamond necklace, right? It's like scarcity and like market pricing, but that's okay.
it's
It
the
is what it
name.
is.
It's also the name. Yeah.
It's actually really pretty though. Um, wow.
Yeah. So there now you're discovering there's stuff.
But also like it a little bit looks like something you could make in China for $10. Like it really
And they're
genuinely
dupes. There are
like
definitely
no
two
offense.
dupes and fakes out there that look very similar.
Like it's really beautiful, but I mean like I don't know. I guess people say the same thing about AI and I get really mad, but I don't know. That's crazy that someone could spend $56,000 on a pen.
They can. I mean, yeah. I mean, they don't make them just because. There are definitely some. Yeah, Monte Grappa. Yeah.
What is that? That's crazy.
I know. They have some very out there designs. So
Like
they
this is just money laundering. Like there's no way.
well go to a show with me
Oh,
and you'll
it's made of
discover.
gold. Okay, that never mind. That makes sense. Um,
All right, so
it's
you
not money
got in a
laundering.
few more recommendations, which is Fountain Pen Revolution, has some
Okay.
fun steel flex nibs.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
that's another person who sketches. Apparently, I have not tried them, but flexi nibs might be your thing. And then a friend of mine who's also a pen maker said Navaler original vacuum filler pen.
Ooh.
So vacuum fillers, I might not be for you. They're not quite for me. I have one, but it's a very cool technology. Like it's like the ink
You
kind of sucks.
you
Yeah,
like dip it in and then yeah.
it kind of sucks it in. It's hard to clean out. But if you use the same ink, like you just use one sketching ink, it's fine.
I've not cleaned my rapidograph yet, and it's
Good.
still fine. So
Yeah.
there we go. Yeah, that's sorry. I'm still recovering from the $300,000 fountain pen.
You
I
know.
I wish I could be rich enough one day to have such a thing. But then I'd probably spend my money just on paint. Anyways, but that's so nuts.
I mean,
Yeah,
someone probably has it in their collection. I don't know who, but they're probably made like maybe a handful of those. A lot of times, those are like if you look up their Tutankhamun, I think they
yeah,
had pen as well, Monte Grappa. I think they made maybe a few of those, and it's like full with the sarcophagus, and it's
yeah, and it's like all
fascinating.
gold and yeah, and it's
Yeah.
jewel encrusted. Yeah, I guess I don't know. It's interesting because if you are not part of a community and you go into a community and you learn that there's something in that community that's like people would pay $400,000
Mhm.
for, it feels weird. Like, I'm
Mhm.
sure there's like a rare books community or like the Hobbit community where
You
there's
know,
like the first edition of
yeah.
the Hobbit.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, like, yeah, community is like a different beast, but I think they're like individual users. Like, I've used fountain pens for such a long time before I realized there's a community for it.
Right. Which is sad and cool. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's great that you could finally find a community, and it's sad that like you wouldn't know about it in the first place. And that's how I felt
Mhm.
like when I was a kid getting into nail polish was like, oh, there's all these companies and these different colors, and I wonder about the pigments behind them. Then stopped caring for like a decade, and now that I am an adult and I use Reddit, I'm like, oh, there's like this group of people out there,
Mhm.
and if I have a question about like, hey, these two colors look really similar, are they actually the same? There's inevitably someone online who has swatched both of them and said, no, they're actually different, and here's the ways in which they're different. And that's nice too because that saves you money, knowing that there's someone else out there who had your same question who was able to like contribute to the community in a way, is really important. And I don't know. I think it's cool that a bunch of people can nerd out over the same thing and be welcoming to people like me who don't know anything. So
Yeah, no, we love just, helping people figure out and penable them. We call it penabling.
enabling. Oh my god. I think it's indoctrination, but it's probably not a bad thing. Other
All right,
than
so you've
financial stuff.
gotten another one, which is Ferris wheel press. I don't have Ferris wheel press pens, but I have their ink, so I'll show
Okay.
you. And another ink thing that someone said, buy samples or like
Yeah,
exchange samples with
the little
people. Don't,
vials.
yeah, don't buy the big things. So
So
sample.
are fountain pen inks all water based?
For yeah, I mean, yeah, you
Okay.
kind of have to flow through. Yeah. Dyes and then a few pigment. Yeah, you kind of have to be cautious. I don't know. There's also another kind of division, I would say, like kind of like on the spectrum of same as watercolor, shimmer, no shimmer.
Sure. Yeah.
And then, like depending on how expensive or how sensitive, like old vintage stuff,
Yeah.
I would not put shimmer in.
I actually wanted to ask about that. Yeah, because when I got this pen, they were like, "Oh, you can only use the ink that is made by that specific company
Hmm.
for this." And I was
Mhm.
like, "I'm
Well,
not."
that's they always tell you that in case you have any
Yes,
problems,
because then you can't like
they're
ask
gonna
them to
ask
fix
you,
it.
have you used our ink? And if you haven't, then they're like, well, sorry.
Yeah, but I just wonder like what what's in the juice? Like what what did they put in here?
Hmm.
Like I don't know, it'd be cool to have a chemist be like, "Oh, it's like this kind of thing and like you actually do need it because of the way that the tip in this is like the, you know, this little guy." And I don't know. I mean, that's not me being cheap. That's like my scientific interest of like
Hmm.
why, do you need to add some sort of lacquer to something in order for it to flow correctly through this other kind of mechanism? Like, I don't know. Like, it's when I was a kid and I would go to get my dad's car fixed and like go to the place and they'd be like, "Oh, here's like why you need this kind of fluid for this kind of
Hmm.
machine and all these other things." And I was like, "That's really cool that someone figured that out." And I wonder like what it's like to experiment with that stuff and reverse engineer it. And I would not do that with this because it's expensive.
Hmm.
But I want someone on the internet to be like, "This is why this is, and this is like what gives you the line quality. It's not just the nib; it's also
Hmm.
the ink, and
And
here's
this
how
is
it
where it
works."
comes also like the paper talk comes in because different inks, different paper. It's, there's like we call it feathering, like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it can go like all around the place. And it really depends on the ink. Some
Yeah.
inks are formulated in the way that they're gonna hold up great on most of the papers. And that's also the interesting part. Like you will see how some inks will look also differently, just like visually on
Yeah.
different papers.
So, what do you people do for journals? Like, are there journals that are like watercolor paper level thicknesses for the pages? Or do you just sort of like, I don't know, I guess how do you source your journals such that the paper is thick enough and you're like happy with it?
I think there are like different people. Like I love my Japanese papers for that. There's some like really great thicknesses. There's like this Midori's, I think they're pretty
Mm.
good. Chub Drawer has so
Yeah,
many
yeah.
options for that.
Oh, that's true. They have a lot of those like handmade,
Hmm.
like thicker paper journals. They're so expensive.
Well, you should give some advices there, William.
Oh my god. Yeah, because I don't even like, I don't journal, like, and I
Mm-hmm.
hate buying lined paper because my brain wants a blank sheet of paper, and so everything I buy is usually, like, a watercolor level, like, sketchbook. Um, it's a huge forms.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
you
either
can
gonna work
imagine.
for you or not. It's the same
Yeah,
with watercolor paper. Like it's like little snippets of like trying out is the best.
yeah. But the issue is, like, you can't do that with a journal, right? I can't go into Barnes& and Nobles and be like, "Hey."
Yeah.
Um Yeah, I don't know, it's interesting to think about, I have probably 400, not actually, but, like, sketchbooks I bought where I've only used the first page, and I've been like, "Ugh," and, I wish I c like, I really wish I could find a brand where I'm just like, I like this, I'm committed to it, this is what I'm using. And like for me, like that's the Canson paper for like the work that I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing in journals because it's thick, it's super cheap. I don't feel bad about screwing up a piece of
Mm-hmm.
paper, moving on to the next one. Like it holds up well enough that when I die, hopefully someone can make a bunch of money on my originals, like
Yeah.
stuff like that. But it's also like, I don't know, it's
Mm-hmm.
it's not cute. Like I want a cute little if I have like a fancy pen, I want a cute little fancy journal. This is utilitarian. Um so maybe I just need to go I
Oh,
want
you
to go.
can have someone hand bind you things. I have, I think,
Yeah.
exactly same paper in here.
Yeah,
Someone made it
you gave me a really nice
repurposed.
journal that I was using for watercolor stuff. I don't
But
remember.
paper, as far as paper goes, I think everywhere you can buy this brand Clairefontaine. It's like pretty
Mhm.
cheap, pretty affordable, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Clairefontaine is like one of those. And it's decent. Oh, yeah. So inks. Very pretty design, not a great bottle. Can
I
tip it.
have at least 2 of those. Oh,
So
yeah,
that
'cause
is
I
Ferris
have
wheel press.
my boyfriend and I got glass dip pens for each other, and we, like, use stuff
Oh,
like that, so I
nice.
have some connection with that.
All right, and then the very last thing we still need to mention, I think it was also inks because we're in the ink territory now.
I told you it would take 2 hours, and you didn't believe me.
It did not. It did not. Yeah, it was that suggestion about the Ferris wheel press. Ferris wheel press, the ones that I showed you, they also have the pens. I have not used them, but they're like probably decent. You probably can. They carry them in a lot of places. You can probably try them out too.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. No, 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 I know these. Um, do I have one? No, I have the ink. I have not seen their pens in person. Oh, but they're pretty. I like the bottle.
Mm-hmm.
I think Midori and Tomo. Oh, yeah, Tomo paper I've seen.
Yeah,
Uh,
and then Corolla says the Barnes and Nobles has it.
yeah. I feel like anything that would be good for, like, fountain pen ink would be okay for watercolor. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
not, depends on how like, what kind of work you make, obviously.
Yeah, no, there's definitely like mixed media type of paper that could serve both purposes. I usually I usually use the hot press. Hot press is great for fountain
Yep.
pens. So it's very smooth and, thick enough. So that's kind of my go-to. All
Yeah.
right, we're like nearing like really a lot of time on there.
Thank you for listening to us or listening to me. Obviously, everyone's gonna wanna listen to Marina.
Oh
Um,
no, I mean you're great. We gotta have you back and after you use some pens, some
I
more pens.
honestly, that's a great idea, and I promise not to eat pasta the next time. I was just worried about getting a migraine. If I don't eat regularly, I get sick. I guess that's how all humans are. Um, yeah, like, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to my local stationery shop. I'm gonna see what they let me play with. And then, yeah, I guess pen show's quite a bit of ways, but I'll find something. There's people in
Mhm.
LA. I'll go
San
I'll bully
Francisco,
you.
yes, San Francisco's happening end of August. I don't know
Oh,
if Corolla
that's
is
a while
coming.
away
I
too.
think Corolla is coming. So she's gonna be there. A couple of people gonna be there. I have a room in a hotel across the street from the venue because that's gonna be in Millbrae. Yeah, past South San
How many
Francisco.
days are you staying?
It's a 3-day show, I think. I'm
Okay,
staying 2 nights.
that makes more sense. I was like, you can just drive. Like, you can just you're next door.
No,
That makes
it's
sense.
yeah, I missed out last time because I used BART, our system. Yeah,
Yeah,
and it was like I was trying to get there on Saturday, and Saturday is the day they like doing like some maintenance work on the tracks.
yeah.
So I missed out. So this time I just like I reserved a hotel, so I'm like right there.
Yeah, that makes more sense. I didn't realize it was such a big 3-day thing. I thought it
Right,
was just like a
Corolla's
day.
coming.
Cool.
Woohoo.
Well, Destroy pasta. Amazing. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, thanks for talking. If you're interested in my
Yay.
stuff, I'm like not the best at shipping stuff yet, but I mean, like I have shipped stuff to people, but I'm still working on the website, so it's a bit finicky. But definitely follow my Instagram. Definitely look at my YouTube channel. I'm interviewing mostly scientists, but also people like Aquamarina, our dear science arty friend.
Yeah, I
Do
just did an interview, so I'll be there at some point
exactly.
soon.
Yeah, that's going up today. So yeah,
Yay.
like I don't know. I'm doing my best with what I have, and if it's interesting, follow along, and if you don't care, that is also fine.
Yeah, so I'll leave some of your info in the description a little later today. Please like this stream if you haven't already, because I guess I need to ask people to do it.
Exactly, and yeah, I definitely like comment any recommendations that like I didn't get necessarily. Like if you want to comment on something, like I will absolutely follow up and check it out,
Mhm.
and I will look at stub pens between 1.1 and 1.5 so that I can get better handwriting.
And I think for the next time, what we're gonna do, we're gonna have you back. We'll see where you're at, and we'll have someone else like Julia or maybe Carola or maybe Vendy if she's around here, just to come on and like answer some questions in a different way that I could.
And judge my handwriting.
Judge your handwriting. No one's judging. I mean, some people are always judging. It's the internet, you know. The internet is always judging someone. It's like that's just how things are.
It's true.
I
That's a good ending note. Someone out there is always judging you. Big brother. Well, thank you for having me on. This is amazing. Thank you for welcoming me to this community. I always love learning more about color and art, and I am your friendly neighborhood art science geek. So drop me a line, anyone who's interested, and stay tuned.
All right, we're ending the stream, but Katie's still staying with me to talk. All right.
Perfect.
All righty.